Okay.
Thank you. I feel like I need to say thank you to her. So, okay. So the first question, we're on the move. I see that. The first question is, a few weeks into discovery, my sex addict husband has stolen my joy. I don't want to give him the satisfaction of me having a good time and therefore him getting to have a good time, but that comes at its own sacrifice. How can I handle this? He used to be my best friend. Did you follow along
I
with
had
that?
to change rooms because, yes. Hold on one second. I have issues at this end. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was freezing up and I didn't want to freeze up, so I changed rooms, and I apologize for that.
Okay, so it's in the answered. Read it a moment.
No, I'm reading it. I'm reading it. Well, to me, this is a grief issue because it is what it is. And if it hadn't, once you ring a bell, you can't unring it. And this has happened. And so you're not going to be able to turn to this best friend and say, I need to lean into you because this has happened. And as much as so you have to grieve. I mean, this is sadly what you get left with is you have to grieve. Am I moving, Tammy? Are my ears?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I mean, right. I'm sorry. And by the way, I changed rooms. I don't actually think it's us. I hear that Zoom has been having some issues. So someone hurt you and you can't rely on them anymore and you can't turn to them anymore. And that's really sad. And that really hurts, especially when it's the person closer to you. And if there's any silver lining in this at all, it is a great time for you to reach out to other people that love you and other people that care about you. And, maybe being more involved in your spiritual life, like grow yourself and your community, because you need support in dealing with the fact that you're not able to talk to your best friend. What do you think, Tammy? That's what comes to mind.
Well,
for me.
the thing, I'm kind of reading between the lines, but it says, I don't want to give him the satisfaction of me having a good time and therefore him getting to have a good time. So I took that as sex, but maybe I'm overreading into it. But that's what I was taking it. I was like, if I'm reading it correctly, and I'm not saying that I am, but if I am, A, you can have sex by yourself. B, there's a lot of good times that happen that aren't sex. Your hand is going all over the screen. So do you need to mute for a second? You got it? Dr. Rob? Oh.
I'm going to go in and out.
Okay. All right. Anyway. So if you're referring to sex, again, you can do that by yourself, and him having satisfaction or not. But what Dr. Rob said about grief, it absolutely is grieving. And you just recently found out, this says a few weeks into discovery, you are so early in the process of finding out about all of this. So you're not just in the grief, you probably aren't even in the grief yet. You're probably dealing with the trauma. So get support. We have betrayed partner groups, multiples on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. I invite you to get support and connect with the people that are in that, because they'll share their experience and can probably give you ideas on how to just hold the space for yourself and connect with them. So I can't hear you.
Can I say one more thing about that, Tammy?
Please.
I see partners and spouses sort of like this, just teetering on the edge of grief. And you join those partner groups and it's kind of like, I don't want to be around these sad people whose husbands or wives are really struggling. And I don't want to be around these people, who are constantly going to couples therapy and all of that. And the reality is you are that person. You're no different than anyone else in that room, meaning you're all experiencing the same pain and the same unhappiness. And you have to own that and find a way through that with support. And I think when the women come together on the free groups, they get really angry at their spouses, but if they can, even in that, they're bonding and they are finding a place to get support. So anyway, I'm really encouraging.
Somebody tagged in the chat, and this is a different perspective. I think she's saying that if she enjoys life at all, it will give him an excuse to think that he hasn't really hurt her. Thank you for sharing that, because I had not thought of it from that perspective. So what do you think with that kind of a lens?
Well, I don't think that way. I think what happiness is the best reward. Like, why don't you go out and have a great time? Why don't you go out and have fun and make new friends, do whatever you need to do to explore, you know, go to the theater, go to museums, take a weekend away, get a massage. You know, maybe this is your time to not focus on anything at home and really focus on yourself. So I think it's actually, while this man is probably struggling with whatever he's struggling with, especially having hurt you, I would hope, you could be out having a good old time and let him struggle because you deserve it. And that's how we look at it, that you guys are suffering and in grief. And, you know, sometimes you need to be in a group and get support. Sometimes you just need to go out and, you know, get your nails done. So anyway, Tammy, what else have we got
Okay,
tonight?
next
I'm
question is,
playing.
what is a topical or a typical, I'm sure, typical recovery time frame from active addiction to recovery freedom?
Well, I know that Tammy already has the answer to this, but the answer is it's up to the person and how committed they are to change. You know, I know people who, you know, read a book and they maybe go to a few meetings, it isn't really for them, and they do some therapy and they think I'm done, and they're not. You know, it really is a hard dive into yourself and all of that. Um, However, I think that, you know, there's a few questions here, like, if I'm an active addict, how long will it take me to stop doing that? And that's a different question, I think, than how do I move from this place where I'm completely selfish and everything's about me and I'm really not looking at anyone else, to, oh, I see, I have responsibilities and you're important to me. And, you know, I think they're kind of, I don't know, Tam, if you'd agree, but I think they're kind of different things.
Well, I often share there's abstinence, and then there's some sobriety, and then there's recovery. And recovery is you're doing life different. It's like you're engaged, you're actively involved, you are thinking of other people, not just yourself. At first, it's so awkward. And I hear this often. It's like, you know, he's saying the right words, but it doesn't feel real. Yes, because he's practicing and it's really awkward. So, but you know, like for some people, like the compulsion to act out may leave quickly. That doesn't necessarily mean that anything has really changed yet. Like Dr. Rob said, you read a book or whatever, and you know, but so it depends. There's so many different levels, but you know,
Ooh.
typically I often say, you know, it's a process, and really to get a solid foundation, I think is, you know, probably in the 24-month, you know, period, to have a really solid foundation and be starting to think differently. Now, that's my experience. That doesn't mean anything. There are people that get it faster. There are people, you know, I talk to people that are, you know, they've been doing this for, you know, 5 years, and he's still dabbling around. I use he and she, but, you know, he's still dabbling around and not really getting it. So I think if you actively pursue your recovery with the same energy that you pursued your addiction, you're going to do really well. You can, you know, so anything that's typical, an average is an average. I love math. So, but it's one of those where a median, and I mean, it doesn't matter, you know, each person has their own individual thing. So what is typical, you know, for someone else isn't necessarily my experience. I can alter that by doing more. So you were doing this. I thought you were going to say something.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking that, you know, at Seeking Integrity, we're working with these guys. We've got them for a few weeks, and hi guys, welcome. I will see you tomorrow. But you know, there's the difference between what recovery really means to me on the highest level is when people come in and they're saying, oh my God, I'm going to lose my marriage, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, and that's their main focus. To me, recovery really starts when they realize that no matter what happens, with whatever happens on the outside, that I need to change it. This is really about me. And I see, like, in the guys in the first week, I got to save my marriage, I got to fight my marriage, I got to be a hero in my marriage, you know, or whatever that is. But, you know, at a certain point, I think if they're really in recovery, they turn around and say, I've been struggling with this my whole life, long before I met my spouse, and I want to be a better person, and I want to be more loving, and I want to be honest, you know. So I think when it moves from, are you frozen, Tammy?
No, I'm here. I'm here. Hello.
Oh,
I'm here.
maybe a little.
When it moves from,
Okay,
you were
let's
mid-sentence. When it
keep.
moves from, Dr. Robbie, you
Yeah, but I
said
don't know
when
when
it
I
moves,
left. Oh,
you said
okay.
when it moves from,
When when recovery happens is when it moves from I'm doing it for someone else something, and it moves to himself.
Okay.
But now you're not there.
I'm here. Unfortunately, I really think it's you. Sorry.
Did you get hold?
I did. I heard what you said. So we're going to move on to the next
it is.
question.
Well, it's all of Zoom in Los Angeles.
Okay, I believe that. So
Okay.
here's the next question. My SA husband in recovery for 6 months and sober for 18 months. I love that. That's a really good clarifying thing. Thank you. And we have slowly begun to integrate sex into our relationship. It's been a complete 180 on his being present and loving in the bedroom. He said recently that he really loves our vanilla sex, and I believe he means it. However, does that mean hot sex is over for us?
Tammy, you want to start with that one? Or would you like me to jump in?
Well, you're the sexologist, so I have a feeling you should do that one, but you mean I've got thoughts, but go for it.
Well, I stopped at the word vanilla. I know what vanilla sex is, by the way, for those of you who are not familiar. It's kind of sex without frills. You know, we're not playing with toys. We're not spending time doing things that aren't sort of the typical sexual act, intercourse, basically. Maybe some oral sex, whatever. But I think what's being asked is, can we do sexier things? Can we, can I put on my suit and tie and you can put on an apron, and then, can we get into that? And, I think it depends on a couple of things. I don't think that your spouse can answer that for him, I guess, for himself. He has to go to a sponsor. He has to go to his 12-step program. He has to go to people and say, is this something I can do? Can I do this? I mean, you can do whatever you want, but what you're worried about is making sure that he doesn't slip back into madness. And so I think that, you might discuss what you're interested in doing, and then in a less personal way, he can say, these are some things that I'm thinking about. And I just want to say, all you addicts, like, I never made a decision about having sex unless I talked to my sponsor or talked to my therapist. I no longer got to make sexual decisions in my life because I didn't want to make the wrong ones. And I knew they were usually wrong. So I could have as much sex as I wanted, and so can anyone I work with. They just have to tell someone else first, someone else who gets it. But anyway, I want to say one more thing about that, Tammy. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. There is one other thing. If non-vanilla fun sex involves other people, Tam.
I hear you.
Yeah, I think that if you're bringing, threesomes and going to, couples clubs, and, that stuff is, if it was there before, that ends, because that's a kind of, so basically on some level, we're not supposed to have non-relational sex. I can be dating you and have sex. I can be married to you and I can have sex, but I can't just have sex with someone I just met, because that re-engages the cycle. So, and by the way, I'm not judging, as you hear, I don't judge people's sexual life. That's not my interest. If they want to open up their marriage or do whatever they want to do, I just think because there's a sex addict involved, there needs to be a whole bunch of people involved, and accountability. I give a simple example. I've had guys for years say, when can I start masturbating again? When can I start doing it? And sometimes like, well, why don't you do it a few times and see how it works? And if it's a problem or leads to other things, then we'll talk about it. We'll put it back on the list. This isn't drugs and alcohol where you can just say, no more, I'm done. It goes over there. Some things we have to figure out, and we don't do it right because we don't know the person with eating disorder doesn't know there's sugar in that food. Sometimes it just happens. So anyway, Tammy, I said a lot. Do you want to take that or move on?
Yeah, well, and I think it's fair, if you're not having a discussion about it, and you may be, but if you're not, I think it's fair to say, here's what I would like to do. So having the communication, but then yes, having the follow through with his sponsor, his therapist, whatever, so that you make sure, that it's something that is beneficial for your relationship and recovery as well. So, okay. So next question is, last week you spoke of voyeurism and exhibitionism. My question is your take on if all pornography is voyeuristic for the observer and those being filmed are exhibitionists.
Well, I can speak to someone who looks at voyeuristic pornography. I'm not sure about the other half of the question. The other half of the question, I think I have an idea, but maybe Tammy can interpret. But sorry, there's the question. But is pornography voyeuristic for the user? Of course it is. But not in the sense of like an illegal act. We're interested in watching, and by the way, men are visually cued for sex. So that's why we like sex clubs and porn and all that stuff. Not that you guys don't, but we're really driven into it because we are visually stimulated. So, I think of a voyeur as being someone who peeks in on situations where they are kind of stealing something from the other person. They're stealing the image, they're stealing the moment, they're looking in a window. They don't have the person's permission. Now, you could look at porn like that. It has nothing to do with what you're going to do out there in the world. It just might be something that turns you on. So just to say, looking at voyeuristic porn is about taking advantage of people. But just because that happens in a visual or erotic experience with porn doesn't mean they're going to go out and do it in real life. Lots of people look at different kinds of porn, trans porn, this and that. They're not necessarily looking for it in the real world. So just to say it. The other part, I think I'm confused about that because I think now I'm not. To me, if they're looking at porn, it's people who are often being not very well. They're being paid to do that porn. They're putting it up for free because they want to. In other words, there certainly are some people who put up their own porn, and I would imagine they want to be seen, and so they're exhibiting. But even exhibiting within a framework where everyone else is exhibiting, it's not the same as exhibiting yourself in a park bench. So you kind of give permission anyway. Enough about that. I think some people, but the most folks are just in porn because they need to make the money, or they need to pay for their kids' school, and they need to pay for, I don't think most of us, or they have a lot of issues that left them turning to those kinds of behaviors in order because they didn't know they were worth more. But I don't think of porn performers as being voyeurist, exhibitionistic. I think of them as struggling on a variety of levels. Not all, but many.
Right. Okay, next question. My husband has been a porn addict since he was 10. D-Day was about 6 months ago. I found out that he had an emotional and physical affair with a coworker. He was considering leaving me. We knew about his porn addiction. I thought he was in recovery for 12 years, but he never stopped looking. He thought his porn use was victimless and harmless. Do porn addicts often have emotional affairs? How much of his affair was a result of his porn addiction, or was it just infidelity, or both? Does it matter? That's a good question. Does it matter?
There are 7 questions in there.
I know.
I think there are a number of questions. Can you just maybe feed them one at a time, and I'll try.
So I think one of the important ones is, did the porn addiction lead to the emotional affair? There's a number of people that never do anything, with a real person, just watch porn. Right. So there isn't a if this, then that, to me.
Right. I guess, you and I both know that there's escalation, and that people start out with one thing and then they end up with the next and the next. And, someone's having an emotional affair online, it's not unlikely they're going to, a physical affair, it's not unlikely they're going to get emotional, then they're going to meet them, and by the way, you said he's considering leaving me, and this is a serious emotional affair this person had. So, do people have affairs that don't do all the other stuff our sex addicts do? Sure. That's most folks. Do our folks look at porn, have sex with sex workers, and have affairs? Sure they do, because they do all of it. So, Tammy, tell me more questions from here, because that was one of them.
So, how much of his affair was a result of his porn addiction, or was it just infidelity, or both?
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but a lot. I'll say this: it's not unusual for someone to come to Seeking Integrity and say, "I have a porn problem. My thing was with porn. My wife found my porn. My boyfriend, whatever it is, and then I went to Instagram and I couldn't watch the porn, and then I was looking at that." But they don't expect us to talk about masturbation, about hooking up with people, about cam girls and cam boys that come through. In other words, a lot of people, they think about what they got in trouble for as being the problem, rather than their whole sexual experience. So anyway, Tammy, and emotional affairs can be part of that.
To me, the big issues are he's lied to you for 12 years. So this is way more complicated, than can be addressed here. He's lied to you. He has a problem. It's negatively affected his relationship with you, and and often this is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more when we're working with clients at our treatment program. You know, it's I have a hard time believing that's all, and then there's more, and then they keep unpacking things. So, but at the end of the day, he's lied for a long time about everything. Go ahead.
Well, I hear a spouse who's at the beginning stage of this process, because there's a lot of, what does this mean and what does that mean, and trying to figure it out. And I think you haven't gotten to the point where you want to kill him yet. So in the beginning, it's kind of, what does this mean? I want to read every book. Could this lead to that? What happened about childhood? All of it. We get all of those questions. But the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, what Tammy said. Here's how I would say it to you. Do you want to be in a relationship with someone who had an affair with you, with someone else over a period of time? Do you want to be in a relationship with someone who looked at porn for 12 years and said they weren't? That's what it's about. What he did, how he did it, what it meant to him. That's going to keep you out of the reality of what do you want to do with your life based on what's just happened. And I'm not saying it has to be black or white. You don't need to call a lawyer, but I do think you need to seriously think about the person that I thought would protect me and support me and love me and has been lying to me all these years. And what does that mean to me? What does that mean to our children? What does that mean to our future, or whatever that is? So that's the piece that I get out of there.
Yeah,
Let's answer more. I'm sorry.
well, that it does feel like very early in the process, and you don't have to make any major decisions now. You do need to do things that will keep you safe. Like, did he really have just an emotional affair? Go get STD tested. Dr. Officer, you don't need to go consult a divorce attorney. Maybe you do, just so you know, and you don't have to do anything with it, but maybe just going and, that knowledge is like, okay, then I have choices in this. It's not just, this is all happening to me, because it is. But on the other hand, you're going to have more information and you can make a more informed decision of like, no, I'm not willing to put up with this. He's not willing to get help, or whatever it is, or he is willing to get help. He understands that, he has a serious problem, and he's now willing to get help. Great. Okay, next question. My qualifier is in the ICU. He hurt himself when he knew he was going to be found out. How do I balance my fury at him for blowing up my life and my profound sadness and compassion for him? I have absolutely no contact with him whatsoever.
I'm just watching that and just feeling really sad myself. It looks like these people are not together any longer. Is that I have no contact? There are people, well, I'm not sure how to answer that, because I think it's in your heart whether you want to send a card, or you want to send a note, or you want to leave an email, or nothing. I do deter people like you are here now and ask what to do and what is best for you. We say that you can have more than one feeling at a time, and you can feel great compassion. You can feel both of these things. It sounds like you feel like you have to make a choice. We have a phrase called ambivalent love, and I really think it fits here. Ambivalent meaning, I don't know which way. I think I'm crazy. One day I look at him or her and they're with the kids and they're doing this or that, and I think, oh, I just love you so much. And then the next moment I look over and I remember what they were doing and who they were with from some thing I saw on TV, and I want to kill them. And this is not an easy thing to hold on to both parts. And so you're right to be coming to this. A lot of our spouses talk about this. Again, there are free support groups. Go to one of them. You'll hear this idea that I can love you and hate you at the same time. And the truth is, you can have both.
But yes, and it doesn't have to be that you compartmentalize the fury, like, oh, I don't want to be, oh, he's so broken or whatever. Like, both of those are real. So, okay, next question. I'm about 4 months post D-Day and working with a qualified therapist. Yay, I'm getting a formal disclosure from my husband. I want to know details like specific days he acted out, where he acted out, and I want it itemized. Like a calendar, so I can get my timeline correct in my mind. Do you have any recommendations for how the disclosure should be structured, and what other information I should be asking for?
Well, Tammy, you were the one who said, "Oh my!" So I think you're the one who's gonna have to.
I have such a huge reaction to this. It was like somebody was talking the other day about, a line item disclosure, and and if he forgets a line, oh my God, then it invalidates everything. That is like, to me, torture for both of you. Like, it was bad. You know that there's a whole bunch of stuff. Do you really want to have stuck in your head forever because you'll never unhear it, all of those little details, the calendar, like, oh my God. And then every single day, like I'd be looking at the calendar and going, June 21st, this happened. Like you can't undo that, so what, in my opinion, you're looking for is safety. You want to validate, that some days when he said he was doing, golf with his buddies or whatever, he wasn't, I mean, what is it you're really looking for? And all of that, I was talking to somebody, because I do that a lot. And, I would like, she literally had 150 questions. I said, I bet those can be consolidated down to 3. And I went through, like, here's how those kind of fit together. And I mean, and that's the reality, is you're looking for safety. You're looking for, how much money did he spend? How much unprotected sex? You're looking for categories of stuff, but I would feel bad for you if you get all your questions answered that way. So Dr. Rob?
Well, there are 2 different things going on here. What is the details? There's the thing, do your recommendations how the disclosure should be structured? So part of it is, what is your role? How do you do it? And I think in relationship to these questions, what I would say is write every single one down everyone, make 200 questions if you like. But if your therapist knows what they're doing, they will help hone them down to questions that could be asked in an hour. Because all of you spouses know that you will ask questions, you have every right to the answer, and you think that it's going to make you feel better if you get the answer. But the reality is you get the answer and you have more questions, because questioning is part of your trying to feel safe and trying to understand what's happened to you. But getting each question answered is not going to make you feel better. Okay. Now, a couple of more things. I think disclosure should happen in a 2-hour session. I don't think it should be a weekend. I don't think it should be a whole day. That's just my beliefs after doing all this work for so many years. It's got way too much weight in the process right now, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying you don't have the right to hear about it, but everyone's sort of like, well, when disclosure comes, when the polygraph comes, and I don't think that's the issue. The issue is over the long term, is this person committed to change, and are they doing change? Okay, one of the things you wrote about is specific days he acted out, where he acted out. I want it itemized on the calendar. So I think to expect someone to be that specific is not going to happen. I don't remember half the times I did what and when. I don't remember what last week. So I'm certainly not going to remember how I acted out 4.5 years ago on the 5th of December. And I think for you to expect that is unreasonable of yourself. I mean, that's never going to happen. So this is what I think disclosure should be. It's a list of information that I have to give to you. So about 20 times over the past 6 years, I have seen sex workers, and 2 of them I saw more than once. And I was looking at porn at work all the time because you told me you didn't want me to look at it at home. And I had an affair from 2015. I mean, it's like that. It's nothing than a list of information. Now you get to ask questions about that information, but not 200 of them, maybe 10, maybe 15, because this process has to stop at a certain point with, okay, I get this, and this is where we're at. Now, I just want to speak to the timeline issue. You went on vacation that time and you went to do this, were you doing that? Or, I was going to have birth in a few days and I was in the hospital early. When I was there, did you go act out before? I've heard. And I think if there are particular times in your heart on our anniversary, when we were at your parents' house, that you think something wasn't right, I think you have every right to say, I didn't, and they'll tell you it wasn't that date, it was that date. You don't have to believe us, but to look on it in the broad calendar, I think it would be overwhelming. So, but you have a right to know if something happened on a day that was special to you both, or to you.
Or in your house, or like, in your bed, in your car, like somebody said in the car, and I was like, ugh, but
the laundry room.
Yeah, well, but so there are certain things, absolutely, but to, everybody gets to pick. The extra traumatization of the partners that can happen from all those details, I did go, you've got enough pain. But anyway, so somebody said, I want to know this too. I got to
wait, one more thing. I'm so sorry. What you're not going to get is, do I love you or not love you? That's what every spouse wants to know when they walk in. Do you love me? Do I love you? And that is not going to come out of disclosure. I'm sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
So somebody wanted to add, I want to know this too. I know it won't make me feel better, but if I decide to stay, I want to know what to look for in the future. So this person is adding, if I find out all these details, then I'm going to be able to follow the, the signs, and I wouldn't be able to intervene on it sooner. I think that is part of what someone's perceiving they can learn if they get all the details in a disclosure. So
Okay, so
okay.
Tammy, I don't have that question in front of me.
No, that was
I
in
have
the chat. They put it in the chat.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So yeah, I was just adding that. It was an add-on. Okay. Hello. How do mother enmeshed issues relate to sex addiction and marital problems? Should enmeshment be addressed first before the sex addiction?
I think the sex addiction, compulsive and addictive behavior has to be addressed first, if at all possible, because I am not going to feel good enough about myself. I'm going to be continuing to be dishonest with you. And so for me to look at, and I've heard this before, like a couple says, well, we went to couples therapy when I first found this out, or we both went to therapy, but what were you going to therapy for? Was it about trauma? Was it about relationship issues? This is a whole different set of issues. So, if you have a major mental health issue that requires medication, that has to be dealt with first. Health issues come first. But beyond that, behaviors come second, because I can't look back at things that happened in the past while I'm still actively doing things that are causing problems in the present. So is maternal enmeshment an issue in our field? Tammy, why don't you speak about that? Because I know you know it all.
Absolutely. Dr. Ken Adams wrote 2 books, Silently Seduced and When He's Married to Mom. And he's done a podcast with Dr. Rob on sex, love, and addiction, which you can find on sexandrelationshiphealing.com as a list. So there is very much a correlation between sex. It's not that everybody who's mother enmeshed is a sex addict, and not every sex addict is mother enmeshed, but there is a correlation, because it ends up being a betrayal to the paternal relationship if I am emotionally connected to another person. So it's really easy to go have transactional sex and not have to, not be emotionally connected. So dealing with both, brings great freedom, to the son, let's say, and also then can open things up to be in an honest relationship with a loving partner. So
I just want to add that, the most frequent question we get about childhood issues that lead to the behaviors, were you sexually molested? And I think that is, and I've always thought that's a very small percentage, maybe 25% of us. But the larger issue is neglect, the neglect that we experience, the anxiety, the fear, the not knowing if the person was going to come in the next day, or them asking us about a boyfriend, just the complete mismanagement of a child-parent relationship, which makes us, by the way, focused on what's out there for our happiness as opposed to what's in here. I'm sorry, Tammy. I'm
no, that was a good add on. So the next question is, we're starting a therapeutic separation. What are your top suggestions for success?
I wonder what success means, like success for how we can best utilize this time. Or what do you think? Again, Tammy, I'm going to ask you to clarify or give me some ideas, and I'll jump in, I promise.
So to me, it's to have a plan. Like, what is it going to look like? How would you come back together again? What is the plan for that? I often hear of couples who are 2 years in the process of therapeutic separation, and there's no plan. There's like, what is going to need to be, the reality for the couple. What does he or she need to do in order to be safe to move back into the house? How are we going to do this? What is your communication during the separation? What is agreed to? How are you going to work through this to either come to the conclusion that you should be back together again, or that the divorce, is the answer? Not having a plan, or a time frame of like, we're going to look at this in 3 months or whatever it is, and just explore where we're at. But just going into separation with no plan, then you're kind of in that in between stage, and 2 years goes by, 5 years goes by, and nothing really changes for either of you.
I'm writing notes.
Okay.
So I was writing notes because now I understood what you were asking. And so at least this is my version. There's a reason that the word therapy is in therapeutic. It should be some time when you are working with someone who is a professional to help guide this. The things that Tammy's talking about, which is when do we talk to each other? When do we see each other? How do we handle day-to-day things like somebody needs to call a kid or whatever? What if I want to come see you? What if I want to come call you? You know, all the little, the boundaries, I guess, is what we're talking about. I think that really those need to be negotiated with a third party present, and the professional will really help. Um, I think you do what Tammy, I would want criteria for ending it. Like, you've been sober this amount of time, I've been doing this, you know, for both of you, you know, I'm not rageful anymore, you know, I've come to peace. I don't know what those are, but this is kind of what Tammy was talking about. It might be 6 months, it might be 9, but you have to have some, how do we know? Because I'll feel angry for 5 years, but how do I know when I'm ready to readdress the person? I'll know this and this and this. And again, that's a therapy issue, I think. The last thing I wanted to say was, and I think Tammy mentioned this, when I speak to a couple that's going on over a year separated, I kind of know they're not going to go back together. And I've had men write me and say, you know, how do I apologize? I want to apologize 5 more times. What can I do? What can I do? I've done everything. I read out of the doghouse. I did everything you said. And, you know, they may be the most gracious, kind, recovering man or woman in the world, but their partner doesn't want to live with them. And a lot of times, you know, I don't know if you know this, Tammy, but when couples are going to break up and have one of them has a plan, it is very typical for them to come to a therapist, and they go to the therapy because one or the other of them couldn't really say that they were done. So with
Oh,
someone else there, they kind of brought, so a lot of couples have already made up, or one or the other has already made up their mind. So, and I facilitate, and the ones I facilitated are generally people who have lived apart more than a year. You know, you're either going to have to move on or you're not.
yes, otherwise you stay stuck in that in between. Okay, next question. My husband has a year of sobriety. When I ask him about why he was acting out, when he says it was all about feeling powerful, enjoying the risk and adrenaline and pleasure seeking. He doesn't say anything about deeper issues. Does sex addiction boil down to just not being able to control oneself, or is it caused by something deeper? If it's something deeper, how necessary is it for the addict to connect with the dots? He is doing therapy in 12-step. He's on step 8 currently, but I'd hope he'd have a better grasp on why he became an addict, but maybe I'm not understanding addiction correctly or expecting too much too soon. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
Well, I just want to make sure that that you're not, and this is just a spouse thing sometimes, that you're not going to him and saying, what happened in therapy this week? What happened in your 12-step meeting? What did your therapist say? I think that's something that we need to have to ourselves. And so if I was working on some deep trauma that occurred in my childhood, I don't know that I would come home and tell you about it. I might be in the middle of a very difficult part of it that I just need to think about or journal about, or, you know, I'm having dreams about. You know, I know you partners want to hear everything, but there are certain things that might come up that you might not hear about. So I would not be surprised if there were pieces of that being done. But what if I were involved with you, what would I want you to hear? That I'm understanding the acting out, that I'm beginning to figure this out. So do we have deeper issues? Absolutely. Absolutely. We are broken from a very early age, I believe, earlier than many of us remember. But is understanding that going to help solve his problem? No. I went to therapy for many, many years. I went to therapy to learn how to be a better person, but I went to 12, well, maybe even a reasonable person, but I went to 12-step programs to get sober. And so, you know, there's an absolute difference. Again, we've talked about this before. And I actually think it is focusing on trauma. Tammy, I know so many therapists, oh, you do this crazy behavior? Well, let's explore why. And why is not the right question. The right question is how? How do I stop doing this? How do I put my life together? Why can come 3 years from now? So actually, I think that he's right on track from what I read, and I appreciate your concern. And I think we all need to get under the issues, but let's be sober a while first.
Yeah, and I was thinking, thank goodness I didn't have to know all the whys early on, because I've been in recovery, you know, a few 24 hours, which means a while. And I've had ongoing layers of realizations, and I wouldn't be surprised if I have more, because, you know, like a few years ago, I had another level and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So there's more components to it, but I learned enough early on to not keep acting out. that was my number one goal. And then, as the process proceeded, I've continued to work, just like Dr. Rob said, more therapy, more work, I've learned more. But I'm so glad to hear, like, he's got 8 months. That's a very encouraging. So, okay. So, oops, cancel. I hit the wrong thing. Sorry. Switching all these things back and forth. Okay. What is
Tammy, I do love you. You're wonderful.
So this is another typical question. What is the typical recovery time frame?
I think we had that question already.
I
And
kind of
the
think so
answer is,
too.
it depends on the person. Well, ultimately, it's about, to me, when you've moved from recovering because you want to fix something out there to recovering because you want to change inside of yourself. And there, and part of, I feel, this question, since it's come up again, is, at least I hope it's not, is when are they cured? When is this fixed? When will they not want to do this anymore? And the nature of addiction, it really is a form of mental health in that sense. Like, people get depressed when they have stress and anxiety, things are going on, they tend to get depressed. And people have anxiety when the dog dies, and they get anxious, so in some ways, addicts do too. When we're under stress, someone's getting married, whatever's going on, we will want to act out. It doesn't go away. What we do learn how to do is learn what to do with it. The desired out comes from a part of my brain that is so early that I can't access it. I can think, though, now. I can think, what am I going to do when this feeling shoots up from my brain, this desire, and what am I going to use my bigger brain, how to make a different decision? In fact, did I lose you, Tammy?
I'm here. I can hear you. You're fading in and out, but I'm capturing the words. So it's just a little wah, wah, wah at moments, but you're there.
Okay.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Next question.
I think so. I think I kind
go
of,
ahead.
yes, let's move on.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Married 25 years, 2.5 years from D-Day. I was not aware of how damaging it was to know all the details, thank you, of my husband's acting out. So now I have 8 years of names, motels, addresses, messages, reviews, and worst of all, pictures and videos. I cannot seem to get rid of this stuff. I am thinking of having my husband go through them with me and then delete everything. Any advice? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is the stuff I hate. So I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not sure. This was 2.5 years from when this happened. When I read the part about I just can't seem to get rid of this stuff, that's the part that I struggle with, because I have this really silly example. When I was a little kid and I would get a scab on my knee, and I'd pick at it because I want to know how much it hurt, like how bad it, like I get a little bruise and I'd push on it and it's like, why are you pushing on somewhere it hurts? I want to see how much it hurts. And that kind of relates for me in this way, like I'm going to keep touching it. This is not a touchstone that I would want to hold on to. And the part about him going through this with me, no, absolutely under no circumstances ever on the planet would you want to show him all of this content again. This is something for you to have a person who you love or loves you, knows a little bit about tech, and will come in and support you getting rid of this. And if you're in a support group or one of the 12-step programs, I'm sure you can find a woman who will help walk you through this on Zoom or something. But I would not bring it back to him, because that is, unless you want to throw it at him and say, this is what you did to me, that's not a good idea either.
No, that's not a good idea. So yeah, so I'm sorry, but
why do they have all this?
It's part of the holding on, and
Why do
to
they have all
me,
this?
well, to me, it's she found all this and she's kept all, and I'm saying she and he, but yeah, I'm finding all of this, and I'm going to hold on to it and ruminate over it, and yeah, it's traumatizing, and I'm going to it's like you're talking about picking at the scab. I'm going to keep picking at it. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to know it's like, even if you even if you just look at the device or whatever, you're going to know it's in there, so to me, that's I would vote for getting rid of it in a meaningful with it. Yeah. Have a ceremony that I'm not going to let this continue to occupy my space. Get the sage out, whatever you need to do, do something to cleanse. So
Tammy, there's a really important lesson in here related
Yeah.
to a question was asked before. In some ways, although this is a little bit more literal, the person who said, I want to know every single thing on my calendar, I want to know who and when, this is that. And this is the other side of it. It's a gift to you. This is the person who got every single thing they ever wanted and never wanted, including pictures. And now here they are, 2.5 years later, struggling with the obsession around what to do with it and how much it hurts. This is why you don't want to hear every detail, because getting it out of your head is just getting out of anybody's head. You can't unring a bell. And I don't need to know what parts of the sex worker you touched. I need to know that you were seeing sex workers twice a week and it was heterosexual or whatever. That's all I need to know. And I certainly don't need to know, oh, they all had huge boobs, because then I'm going to be going, well, what about my, you don't need those details. But you do need to know what's happened in your life. And this is a great example of why I would not want someone to know every detail. Thanks, Tammy.
Next question, gay man here. I'm only attracted to straight masculine. This gets me in trouble because I have to manipulate and secretive to get what I want. Do you have any advice over this? Do gay men have to be sexually attracted to other gay men?
Well, I think there's a couple of questions here. There's trauma questions here and there's regular questions here. So to me, this is part of homophobia. This is the part of a coming out process where I'm more attracted to someone who I haven't fully accepted that I might be, however I think gay people are. And so I really want to be involved with someone because I haven't fully accepted that in me. So I don't want to be with someone like that. I want to be with someone who doesn't remind me of things I don't want to look at, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that does.
And yeah, I think to be a gay man, you have to be attracted to men. That's how it goes. And I've talked to men who are married and they say, well, I'm straight. I know I'm straight, and how many women have you had sex with? Well, 3 or 4. How many men have you had sex with? 120. I mean, if you're not going to be having sex with a lot of women or transgender folks, then you're probably a gay person. But let me just say this, even to ask the question, do gay men have to be sexually attracted to other gay men, tells me that you're still struggling what this is all about for you in terms of coming out. I think this is probably a fairly young person, or someone who came out later in life.
I was thinking the opposite. So yes, we won't know. Okay, so the next question is, my essay husband and I entered into an in-home separation. So the other was a therapeutic separation, which can be in-home too, 8 months ago. Things are not getting better. My husband has a CSAT sponsored support group, many connections with other men, but he is still so cold and closed off to me. He hears my request to feel safe, like when he travels or how he treats our relationship, but won't follow through with those things because it's not important to him or wasn't a big deal to him. I hear people talk about what they can do when a husband won't enter into recovery, but my husband says he is in recovery and sober, but I don't see any change. I don't have
Evidence.
Yeah, okay, continuing to act out, but he does evidence to have a deep history with lies and relapses. But either way, whether he is acting out or not, the coldness, gaslighting, his victimhood attitude, lack of empathy are all things that make me still feel unsafe in the marriage. I'm considering an out-of-home separation. Any thoughts besides that?
Well, again, there's lots and lots of questions in there, and I hear someone who's asking for hope. And so I guess there's a couple of pieces here for me. If I was in an in-home separation, I don't think I'd be very happy about it, but I would go along with it if that's what made you feel good. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean, if that's what's most comfortable for you and our healing, then by all means, I will stay in the other room. But I think that if you're also coming to me and you want me to be warmer and sweeter and kinder and more engaged, it's a difficult thing for me to do while you're also keeping me in the basement, so to speak. And so I'm kind of getting a mixed message from you, which is I want to be closer when I can trust you. So I want to see you be more open with me. But for me, I'm in the basement and I'm thinking, well, how can I be warmer to you when you stuck me in the basement? So it's just, this idea that things are going to get better the more separate you get is what I'm concerned about, as opposed to moving toward. So, for example, we said about a year is when a formal separation should begin to move together. You being back in each other's rooms, unless you feel completely unsafe. It may take your not being there to help your spouse know how difficult this is for you. I don't know. I did write a book about this called Out of the Doghouse, and it tells men what the deal is and how they need to work with it, and what it takes to make you feel more comfortable. The third thing I want to say, and Tammy, I will pass it to you, is that this is something we hear all the time. And this is really, the difference between recovery and sobriety. Someone who's just stopped the behavior may not know how to be a kind and gentle, loving person, no matter how much you deserve it. And I've heard spouses say, well, after all I've been through, why don't you just do these nice things? And it's like, well, it's so much to just deal with what we're dealing with, that's sort of a later stage. So I can be a sober jerk, but it's going to take me a while to not be a jerk, basically. Tammy, do you want to add to that?
I mean, like, I have concern. One of the things I did not read was, what support do you have? I'm glad you're here, but he's got a CSAT, he's got a sponsor, he's got support groups. Is the CSAT, are you occasionally in a session so that you can share, I'm not seeing any change, here's how, because we have lots of clients in our treatment program that have lied to their therapist for X amount of time or whatever, or they're going to their therapist and saying, I'm being a good boy and I'm doing everything right, and all of those things, and then the spouse gets in the room and is saying, no, this is how he's treating me, that he won't be accountable when he travels, and whatever it is. So I'm curious about what your support is, how you're involved with the CSAT therapist, or if you both have therapists that are talking to each other, et cetera. So it feels like there might be a little bit of a communication breakdown on that, but I really hear that, he's not safe. I don't see him making changes. And by 8 months, I would think you'd start seeing, not just the cold, what you were doing something, what you don't think that's true?
Well, no, I agree with you. I was just thinking, men kind of need things explained to them in very simple terms sometimes. And I would want to know, like, if you said, I just wish you were nicer to me, or why can't you be kinder to me, or why, I think that, considering who he is with the addiction and all, he may not fully know what you're asking. Again, this is why I wrote Out of the Doghouse, but more importantly, I think you might want to write down, I don't want him to be cold. What does that mean? What would warmth look like to you? And you could take these on one at a time, but maybe I don't understand, or maybe I'm still acting out. I mean, it's all across the board, and I can't answer the question. I don't know your situation, but I do think to be vague is to make it harder for the addict to know when they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And anytime you see positive behavior, like if you go, oh, in that moment he exhibited warmth, and connection, great, that this is really affirming to me. When you just did that, that was really helpful, and I really appreciate it. Anything that you can do where it's positive, affirmation as well, that can be really helpful. But I agree with Dr. Rob. It's like, if it's too vague, it's like, what does that look like for you? What would not being cold look like? These are the things I'm looking for, and be specific. It's like with the separations, what do you really need to see? And if you're looking for things to change one way or the other, him out of the house or not, what are you looking for? And very specific, that he could like check a box and go, yes, I'm able to do that. It is challenging, but hopefully he has read Out of the Doghouse. Hopefully you have too. So, okay. Next question. Are there any tools, toys, or techniques to speed up recovery from porn and masturbation addiction besides abstinence for intimacy recovery in bed?
Well, I love the toys or techniques. It made me think of, those little spinner things that everyone was so hot about before, the little things you kind of like, you put them on your desk and you spin them. I mean, is there a technique? My only answer to that is who is helping you with it. Here's a thought for you.
Yeah, you're fading in and out again.
I guess I would ask, how accountable are you when online? Did you get that? Did you hear that?
No, say it one more time.
Accountability
Okay. Yes. Okay.
online.
Okay.
You can talk about accountability online. So when I get online, you ask for a tool.
Huh? So like the software? No, because it says
no, I
to
call
speed up
someone. I call.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
I
Okay.
call someone before I go online and I say, I'm going to be online for this amount of time. This is what I'm going to do. And then when I'm done, I'll call you back. To me, the best way to stay sober is to promote accountability. And who do you do that with? I guess you'd need someone in a 12-step program or a therapy group, or, we can't do this alone for this very reason. I used to have a sponsor who would say to me, you can have any kind of sex you want. I don't care. Just have to call me first. And if you get me to agree, and it's kind of like that, Camp Tammy, are we tied up for the night?
One more minute there. Yeah, no, but I wanted to add to that. I was like, because intimacy with porn and masturbation isn't there, and you're asking for how do we build intimacy for our relationship, and we've talked about like sensate focus, where it's you start off in a different way. Doctors Bill and Ginger Burkaw did sexual reintegration, and there's a podcast on it on sex, love, and addiction. And so it's one of those things where there are ways to integrate sex for the two of you that aren't with the online, with online. So to me, he had no intimacy. You're looking to have intimacy. So it went from nothing to it's something you have to build up. But dating, hold hands. I mean, how do you start engaging with each other in a meaningful way? It isn't just about sex and orgasm. It's about, the connection, and that's what porn takes away. So that was my thought.
And that's back to that. What is intimacy for us? And abstinence from the porn, but how do you develop intimacy? One thing I don't want people to do is say, well, I'm going to put the porn down. Now we're going to have lots of sex with my partner. Like, that's not it. You don't want to replace the porn with your partner. You want to get to know your partner without the porn. So, yeah. Tammy.
Okay.
I'm so sorry about the Zoom issues.
I know. It's so frustrating that your area keeps having internet issues at this time of the day.
Zoom. It actually is Zoom.
Okay.
So see you later.
Thank you all for all the great questions. We'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.